Hey, it's Sam, and today I'm looking at the recent ceasefire in Gaza. I'll also be looking at the chart of Israel, the chart of Trump, and of Netanyahu, and see how this is being shown, especially in light of the recent eclipses and whatnot that have just happened. So, fascinating case study, and of course something that we're hopeful for in the world. And this is where astrology can really make a difference, where we can see how and why things happen. You see, this is the chart here on October 10th at 12 noon. I put Tel Aviv, Israel, as the home of this event chart. We had this ceasefire go into effect. You see, we have this exalted moon up here. Any electional chart, you look at the moon first to see, what was the emotion, what was the feeling that day, and because the moon is the one thing that moves into a new nakshatra each day and whatnot. So we have the moon was exalted in Taurus in Kritika nakshatra, and of course that's a powerful place for the moon. It's in a highly exalted position because the moon is exalted at 3 degrees of Taurus. Here it's at 8. It just passed that highest exaltation point. We have the ascendant here is Sagittarius, which is ruled by Jupiter, and of course Jupiter is the planet of wisdom, benevolence. One could say diplomacy, but diplomacy is more Venus for sure. But Jupiter is definitely about finding a larger vision, a larger picture, hopefully. So Sagittarius definitely would play into showing the potential for cooperation. And it's interesting. Venus had just moved into Virgo, into its debilitated sign that day, or actually the day before. So Venus is moving from Leo into Virgo. Notice the nakshatra here is Uttara Phalguni. Those who've studied with me know that I always talk about Uttara Phalguni as the nakshatra related to making contracts and agreements. The deity is called Aryaman, who is the one who presides over contracts, including like marriage contracts, and he's often paired with the god Mitra, which is the god of friendship. So you can see Venus, which is really the planet of diplomacy, is in the nakshatra of Uttara Phalguni, which is really promoting making a good agreement. And again, it's in Virgo, which comes after Leo. Now, again, Leo is the power of the kingdom, and literally like a king. And we don't have a good kingdom unless we have it organized into many good tasks and details and systems. So Virgo is often where we organize our kingdom into a practical working structure, and Uttara Phalguni is that nakshatra that bridges Leo and Virgo. So I found that to be quite noteworthy here. We also have the ruler of the chart, Sagittarius. Jupiter is up here at 29. Gemini, he's right at the end. This shows that it could be kind of a tenuous ceasefire. Again, we already have several days later disputes about whether or not all the hostages have been released, particularly the ones who are deceased. Maybe they're buried under the rubble. It's a tricky chart for sure, particularly coming, just after the eclipse cycle and whatnot. So you can see that the chart ruler Jupiter is at 29 degrees. He's at the very end of Gemini, but he's actually close to his exaltation point because his exaltation point is at 5 degrees of Cancer. So even though, again, it doesn't look, you wouldn't think of him as being exalted, he has very high what's called Ucha Bala, or exaltation strength, because he's very close to his exalted position right now. So it might be more benevolent than we think, even though it's going to be a bit rocky. Now, again, we also have Mars, Mercury, and, in Libra. So again, this can show a desire to work out the details, to hammer out the details, particularly with Mercury in Libra. Joined Mars. Mars in Libra is more about fighting, but Mercury is about more cooperation. Now, if you lay this over the chart of Israel, for example, Israel has a Capricorn ascendant, Moon, Saturn in the 7th house. This is the official date that Israel became a country, midnight on May 15th, 1948. You see the Sun, Mercury here are in the 5th house of Israel, the same sign of this moon here, right? This moon that I first talked about in Taurus is right on the Sun and Mercury of the chart of Israel. And by the way, of note, this moon is in the 6th house from the ascendant. The 6th house is the house of work, effort, service, enemies, difficulty. So you can see the sort of difficulty here also with this, that it's two people that are fighting, two warring factions, so to speak. By the way, we also have Ketu in the 9th house of Leo, showing a sort of changing and destroying of previous philosophy, let's say. So again, there's a lot going on here that's kind of, below the surface, particularly as it relates to future plans that Trump and Netanyahu may have. I mean, they've already talked about, at least Trump has already talked about, turning Gaza into the, Caribbean of the east, of the Dead Sea, or, of the Mediterranean, condos. Who knows what could happen with this eventually. But for now, at least it's good news that the slaughtering has stopped, let's say. And again, I'm not going to get too political about it. I just want to show the basic astrology. By the way, the other thing, this Venus, very early Virgo, aspected by Saturn as well. You see, Saturn is 251 retrograde, Venus is 128 Virgo. So they're in an exact aspect here in the 4th and 10th houses. So this Saturn in the 4th house also shows this kind of refugee crisis of, people who are, either having to abandon their home, return to their home, not have a home. These planets, anytime you get these malefics in the 4th house, like you have Saturn in the 4th here, it refers to that. So again, this Saturn in the 4th is aspecting Venus, Sun in the 10th. So again, the 10th house is also about the public, so you can see it's a very public kind of thing. But again, back to the Israel chart. Israel also has Jupiter here in Sagittarius, and that's where the ascendant is as well. And so I wanted to also look at Trump's chart here because he's the one who sort of put this together. And again, you see he has Rahu's Sun in Taurus, the same sign as the moon, of course. And he has his Leo ascendant. And again, we have this Ketu here in Leo. So this could show a, shifting of energy for him for sure. It's been a wild shift since Ketu went into Leo for Trump and his 1st house. But again, relative to this, you can see its influence on his status. Again, he also has Jupiter in Virgo. And again, you see the Sun, Venus in Virgo. He also has his Mercury up here in Gemini, and Jupiter's in Gemini. So you can see the connections here. To Netanyahu's chart, he also has several planets in Virgo. Mercury, Ketu, Moon. And again, obviously we saw this Venus, Sun here in Virgo. And, Netanyahu also has the Sun in Libra. And this ceasefire chart has Mercury, Mars in Libra. So very interesting time and case study here overall. So we'll see how this plays out for the world. And again, there's a lot that's very transitional about this chart, particularly this Jupiter last degrees of Gemini. He's about to poke his head into Cancer, then he's going to go retrograde. Again, this exact Saturn-Venus aspect shows that there could definitely be some more ambitious motives behind the scenes, perhaps, sinister hidden motives with this Saturn in the 4th house. 4th house is the thing that's hidden, retrograde Saturn in Pisces. And again, we've already heard the ambitions. We already know that, Bibi Netanyahu is very bullish on occupying Gaza, and Trump and Jared Kushner already also talked about building condos there. And I mean, when Trump came into office, even before he came into office, he said, we got to end this thing, level the place. And, so it's just kind of like there are reasons to be suspicious that this is being done in the best interest of the Gazans, and that eventually it's going to, play out well for them. Of course, they have to deal with Hamas, this terrorist organization has already, again, monopolized the situation. So it's a terrible situation all around. I'm not going to get into so much of the politics here because this is just, it's a mess all around. But the astrology is quite fascinating, and I wanted to make this. And if you like the video, go ahead and comment, share with others, and we'll talk soon.